A congressional hearing erupted into absolute chaos when FBI Director Kash Patel faced off against Representative Eric Swalwell in what became one of the most explosive political confrontations of the year. The topic that ignited this firestorm? Donald Trump's name appearing in the Jeffrey Epstein files. What started as routine questioning quickly devolved into personal attacks, accusations of political grandstanding, and revelations that have sent shockwaves through Washington. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife, and by the end, both men were trading barbs that left the committee room stunned. This wasn't just any ordinary hearing. We're talking about the largest sex trafficking case the FBI has ever been involved in, and the man at the center of it all, Jeffrey Epstein, whose connections reach the highest levels of power. The hearing began with a Kentucky representative submitting documents to the record. Emails from Epstein victims who have been struggling to get their own FBI files through Freedom of Information Act requests. These victims, who suffered unimaginable trauma, are being stonewalled by the very agency that's supposed to seek justice for them. The representative also submitted a completely redacted search warrant served on journalist James O'Keefe, highlighting what many see as a pattern of government overreach and lack of transparency. Then Representative Swalwell from California took the floor, and that's when everything changed. His first question was like lighting a match in a powder keg. He asked Director Patel directly about the first time he saw Donald Trump's name in the Epstein files, wanting to know if he closed the files or kept reading. Patel's response was telling. He admitted he hadn't reviewed the entirety of the files personally. Think about that for a moment. We're talking about the director of the FBI, the top law enforcement official in the country, admitting he hasn't fully reviewed files in what he himself acknowledged is the largest sex trafficking case in FBI history. Swalwell pounced on this admission immediately, pointing out that the buck stops at the top. What happened next was a masterclass in political theater and investigative pressure. Swalwell began pressing Patel for specific numbers. How many times does Trump's name appear in these files? Patel's responses became increasingly evasive. When Swalwell suggested it could be 1,000 times, Patel said no. 500 times? No. 100 times? Still no. But here's the kicker. When pressed for the actual number, Patel admitted he didn't know. This exchange revealed something crucial to how these investigations are being handled at the highest levels. The FBI director, responsible for one of the most significant cases in recent history, couldn't provide basic factual information about the frequency of references to a former president. Director Patel wasn't going to take this questioning lying down. His counterattack was swift and brutal. He accused Swalwell of engaging in political innuendo for fundraising purposes, suggesting the congressman was more interested in getting his 20-second hit in your fundraising article than actually serving his constituents. This wasn't just pushback. This was a full-scale assault on Swalwell's motivations and integrity. Patel went further, claiming that Swalwell's fixation on the matter and what he called baseless accusations that I'm hiding pedophiles was disgusting. The FBI director essentially accused sitting congressmen of making false claims about protecting child predators. The gloves were completely off at this point. Swalwell regrouped and began asking very specific, direct questions that cut to the heart of potential conflicts of interest. Did Patel ever tell Donald Trump his name was in the files? Patel's answer was clear. He had never spoken to President Trump about the Epstein files. But then came the more complex question about the Attorney General. Did Patel tell the Attorney General that Trump's name was in the files? This is where things got really interesting. Patel acknowledged having numerous discussions with the Attorney General about the Epstein files, but became evasive when pressed for specifics. Despite repeated attempts by Swalwell to get a simple yes or no answer, Patel continued to deflect and avoid giving a direct response. The questioning reached peak absurdity when Patel, clearly frustrated with Swalwell's persistence, sarcastically told him to try spelling it out and use the alphabet when asked for a yes or no answer. This condescending response backfired spectacularly, making Patel appear dismissive and unprofessional while highlighting his unwillingness to provide straight answers. Swalwell eventually got what sounded like a no response, but the damage was done. The FBI director had spent several minutes avoiding a simple question that any competent official should have been able to answer immediately. The exchange made Patel look evasive at best and potentially deceptive at worst, especially when dealing with matters of such serious public interest. As the tension reached a boiling point, both men abandoned any pretense of professional decorum. Patel launched into a scathing attack on Swalwell's representation of California, suggesting he focus on reducing violent crime and dealing with what he called pedophiles that are legally harbored in your sanctuary cities. This was a direct shot at California's immigration policies and Swalwell's political positions. The FBI director was essentially telling a congressman that his entire career had been a disgrace to the American people. When Swalwell tried to interject and reclaim his time, Patel continued his assault, refusing to be silenced. The committee chairman had to intervene, but the damage to professional norms was already done. Perhaps the most shocking revelation came when Swalwell brought up Patel's book, Government Gangsters, where Patel had identified 20 individuals as problematic government officials. Swalwell revealed that he was on that list, in fact, at the top of it. This added a deeply personal dimension to their confrontation. Here was an FBI director who had literally written a book naming a sitting congressman as a government gangster, and now that same congressman was questioning him under oath. Swalwell's children, apparently, found it flattering, but the implications were serious. How could Patel fairly investigate or make decisions about someone he had publicly branded in such terms? When asked if he would recuse himself from any investigations involving these 20 individuals, Patel's answer was a flat no. The hearing devolved into complete chaos as multiple committee members began talking over each other. The chairman struggled to maintain order as Swalwell demanded that Patel be admonished for insulting members of Congress. Other representatives jumped in, asking for additional time for Swalwell to complete his questions, since Patel had interrupted him repeatedly. This wasn't just a contentious hearing, it was a complete breakdown of normal congressional procedure. The fact that an FBI director would behave this way toward elected officials raised serious questions about accountability and respect for democratic institutions. When government officials start treating congressmen with open contempt, we're looking at a fundamental breakdown in the separation of powers. What we witnessed here goes far beyond typical political theater. This confrontation reveals deep structural problems in how sensitive investigations are being handled and how government officials interact with congressional oversight. Patel's inability or unwillingness to provide basic information about the Epstein files raises serious questions about transparency and accountability. His personal animosity towards Swalwell, documented in his book and displayed openly in this hearing, creates obvious conflicts of interest. Meanwhile, Swalwell's aggressive questioning, while potentially politically motivated, served an important oversight function by exposing these problems. The American people deserve answers about one of the most significant criminal cases in recent history, and this hearing showed how far we are from getting them. This confrontation is about more than just two officials having a heated exchange. It's about the fundamental question of government accountability and transparency. When the FBI director can't or won't answer basic questions about high-profile investigations, when he openly shows contempt for congressional oversight, and when he maintains personal vendettas against the very people tasked with monitoring his agency, we have a serious problem. The Epstein case touched some of the most powerful people in American society, and the public has a right to know what the FBI knows. This hearing showed that getting those answers won't be easy, and it revealed the personal and political obstacles standing in the way of transparency. The fallout from this hearing will likely continue for weeks or months to come. Patel's performance raised serious questions about his fitness to lead the FBI, particularly his ability to conduct impartial investigations involving people he has publicly attacked. His evasiveness on the Epstein files suggests there may be more to the story than what's been publicly released. For Swalwell, while his aggressive questioning was effective in exposing problems, it also opened him up to criticism skepticism about his own motivations and methods. The bigger question is whether Congress can effectively provide oversight of law enforcement agencies when personal animosity and political considerations interfere with the pursuit of truth and justice. This explosive confrontation between FBI Director Kash Patel and Representative Eric Swalwell has exposed fundamental problems in government accountability and transparency. From the director's admission that he hasn't fully reviewed the Epstein files to his personal attacks on a sitting congressman, this hearing revealed disturbing patterns of behavior at the highest levels of law enforcement. The American people deserve better than evasive answers, personal vendettas, and government officials who show contempt for democratic oversight. As this story continues to develop, it's crucial that we demand accountability from our institutions and transparency in investigations that affect the public interest. The victims of Jeffrey Epstein deserve justice, and the American people deserve answers.